So I'm going to knock this. It'll either just undo after a little while, or it'll fly off and this red hot crank arm will hit me somewhere where I don't want it to. Right, we got in the stand a Carrera Virtuoso. Customer's brought it in. He wants to change the pedals. He's got one off. Reckon that was pretty easy, to be fair. This one, this little bugger, he's putting up a fight. Customer had a go. He's warmed it up. He's tried a spanner. He's also tried the Allen key on the back of the axle there. So I have had a quick go with a spanner. I used my fairly large fat spanner, pedal spanner. This usually gets most of them undone if they've been over tightened. Just slips and is not having it. So I'm gonna take the crank off. I'm gonna take the pedal off the axle, and then I'm gonna either clamp the axle in the vise, or I'm gonna maybe put a couple of flats on the axle, kind of squared off flats, and then it will kind of hold in the vise a bit nicer. And then we'll get the crank arm and try and wrestle it around. It might be wishful thinking, but we'll find out. I didn't just do this with my hand. I used a spanner. Whoever put this crank on is the same person who's put this pedal on. That was really quite difficult to get that off. I thought the threads were going to pull out of the crank, but they didn't. You might be asking why I'm not just going to replace this crank arm and just put another one on, because they're fairly inexpensive. But this is a 172.5, which is pretty much the norm on a road bike. But when you come to these kind of more basic cranks, they're usually 170 or 175, so it's a bit of a rarity to find one in a 172.5. But anyway, I like a bit of a challenge, so I'm going to try and get this bugger off. Right, the pedal's off. You might be saying, how the shit in hell do you get the pedal off, or the pedal body? But there's a little lock nut. It's a 9mm, then a little lock washer with a little tang. Not going to focus, is it? No. Little tang just to stop it from spinning, and then there's the nut which actually tightens onto the bearing. So you get that one off, you wang that out, and then you stick a screwdriver down or something just to unwind this. Slide the pedal, out it comes. There is some bearings in there, I think. I hope there is anyway. Anyway, there's some bearings in there. This isn't going back on. Right, okay, it's in the vise. This vise probably doesn't look too big, but it's a bit of a monster. It's a York swivel vise. I've put an extended stainless lever on it as well, so I've got it clamped on the flats where the 15mm spanner would normally go. So I'm going to do this up to the point where I'm a bit concerned the vise might break. If you do vices up too tight, if you've got a bit of a cheap vice or whatnot, they usually break across here and the whole jaws just come off. But this thing's it's a bit of a tank, so I think I can give it a bit of teddy. Just pushing on this as hard as I can. Let's lean on it. Just give it some grief. Right. Okay. My plan isn't too advanced at the minute. It is just to knock it that way. And hopefully this can hold it tight enough. But I think what I'm going to do first is just stick some heat into this just to help the alloy expand. The steel won't expand as much as the alloy, and it should come undone. Really easy. Either that or it'll fly off and hit me in the face or something, so we'll find out. Okay, I'm going to use a heat gun. I did just get the blowtorch out before I remembered that this is actually painted, it's not anodised, so that just made a hell of a mess. So I'm just going to give it a little tickle with the heat gun. Hasn't got to be mega hot, just hot enough where if I touch it for more than 3 or 4 seconds it'll become a bit uncomfortable. on the old fingertips, so I'll just do that. Right, okay, now when I touch this, oh yeah, it's fairly warm. Paint's not affected though, so just going to give this a whack. Actually, I'll tell you what, let's use a nylon hammer so it's got a bit more grunt. So I'm going to knock this. It'll either just undo after a little while, or it'll fly off and this red hot crank arm will hit me somewhere where I don't want it to. I mean, that went surprisingly well, I'm not going to lie. I'm actually pretty happy with myself there. Pretty smug. Right, sweet. Let's get this back on. Right, now the crank arm has cooled down enough for me to hold it. I always forget with these heat guns how good they are. You certainly won't want to dry your hair with one, but yeah, you have to be a bit careful. Anyway, so the crank arm's now going to go back on. Sorry if this is a bit boring for the more experienced cycle mechanics or cyclists. Square taper. Don't grease them. Some people do. You're wrong. You don't grease them. You rely on the friction and the taper to hold the crank arm on. You don't want to aid its removal by greasing it. They come off easily enough as long as they're not over tightened, so you don't need grease. Basically, I've cleaned this. I've cleaned the inside. That's going on there. The bolt, which is an 8mm Allen key. My camera's not focusing too well today. I'm not too sure why. Right, okay. So here I'm just putting a little bit of stud lock on there. I only really do this on the left hand arms because they do like to fall off. So we've got a bit of stud lock on the threads. I also put on the flat a little drip of oil. I'm just using 3-in-1. Any oil will do. Literally just to help it tighten up a bit, stop it binding. Right, okay. Let's try and do this one-handed and see how we get on. Just turn the brightness up a touch. There you go. Should probably get a GoPro or something, shouldn't I? I could just wear it then. Just hold the crank on with my foot as well. This is how I do all the repairs. I don't really. I've got another foot and another arm. Right. I'm going to do this up now and then we'll just have a look at the threads quickly. Right, that's all done up. Crank arm's on. I've just tightened it up. I do these up to, if you've got an 8mm Allen key or a 14mm nut, with a bit of thread lock on there and a tiny dab of oil on the flat. I do them up to about 35, give or take. I try and do 35, but if it feels like it's getting a bit spongy, almost like you feel like you're never going to achieve the torque, then chances are something's stretching, the metal, the crank arm stretching or something like that. I had a bike in the other day where the guy had done it up to about, I think he'd done it up to about 70 or something like that, and the top of it had totally separated, totally split open because it's going on the taper. It just totally opened up. So yeah, not that tight. 35, 40 at a push on these is probably about right. I always think it's better to tighten something up twice than it is to wreck it. So yeah, that's that there. I mean, it shouldn't come down anyway because it's got the thread lock on there, but obviously you want it on the taper enough where it's not going to creak and groan and round the square taper off. So anyway, the threads, I don't know if the camera will focus this close. No, I think I can't figure it out. Anyway, the pedal actually, once I got it broken free, actually unwound really nicely. So I've checked the threads, they're lovely. Customer's going to put some, I think he said he's going to put some power meter cranks on or something like that. So he's obviously doing some sort of training or he just likes his data. But all done, ready to roll.